Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this fellowship this Thursday, the 19th of June, 2025. Here in Uganda at 6:38 p.m. of this day, we're in the budget month, where Uganda's budget was read, I think, a week ago. But still, being June is the middle of the year, and we did think that we could utilize this time to reflect on our goals, to have a self-introspection regarding how money matters, our habits with money, how we treat ourselves with money. Most of the time when the budget is read, it is rife with many terminologies that estrange most of the non-technical listeners. Words like per capita, income per capita, GNP, GDP. Then there are so many terms there that, and then somebody talks of trillions. Trillion is also a term. Somebody talks about dollars, such and such, how much these dollars, talk about funders, and so on. Nothing is usually mentioned in our budget of what our economic activities are. We seldom have analysis of how many people work and what they do. I've not found such analysis. Okay, if we have 30 million Ugandans, what do most Ugandans do in order to produce income? But I wanted us to come from that national level and go now deep to our houses, what we call household income or household budgets, domestic budgets. Do we budget? Do we need to budget? When we budget, what must we be wary of? So those are the questions that I would like us, or that would like us to go into, and to see what really we can get, or rather, we see whether we can get re-educated. This is In Truth and in Spirit World of Worship Fellowship. My name is Peter Seruvide, and this is the topic: Money Matters and my annual goals. You have, or you had your year goals, maybe a 5-year goal or 5-year goals, but also work. Every morning we walk, or every morning we walk, or we drive, or we ride to work. We get stuck in jam. We go through a lot of hustle and bustle, a lot of vicissitudes. We keep on. We conflict with our employees, whether with our bosses. We go through a lot of ups and downs in order to earn a living. Why do we wake up to go to work? The answer, the most popular answer, is to earn a living, or to get money. To be literal here, it is to get money. That's what we say. So, but we need to now to reflect: money for what? How much money? What is money? Do we need to increase our income, or we need to cut our expenditure? What is the best way to behave as far as money and money matters are concerned? On this forum, in natural environment, on this forum, we have specialists who deal with money, who have studied money, who have dedicated their time to understanding how money works and how discipline matters as far as money is concerned. We have Francis Lugorobi Kabinuli. We have Jethro Msoke Nsamba, and Omchweze Rutembana Asimwe Pedson, who also can reliably now come in first to educate us for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, to take us through what the budget is, what the Ugandan budget was. Just to take us through, once again, the budget, the Ugandan budget of the financial year 2025-2026. And then later, I will invite Francis Lugorobi, preferably, to tell us the concept of, to enlighten us about the concept of budgeting at the level of the household, at the household level. But also, Jethro Musoke Nsamba can also take us through what we need to do, or what we ought, the ideals, what we ought to adopt, a counterculture of how we can grow our incomes. If we need to grow the incomes, do we need to grow the incomes? Is income growth a need or a desire? That we must also come to terms with, and so on and so forth. This being a Christian fellowship, there is a parable of talents that is usually quoted by most financiers as one of the financial parables. We have a resident theologian here. He will educate us whether that parable was a financial parable. But there is also another one, a shrewd, is it a shrewd accountant? We also need education, whether that also matters here, just for matters of education and matters of inspiration and revelation, in order to see ourselves have a counterculture, preferably a better alternative culture. Omchezu Tembana, could you come forward, please, and say something educative about the Ugandan budget 2025-2026 and what it implies to each and every Ugandan resident in Uganda and probably outside Uganda? Omchezu?
Yes, thank you, Seruvide. Like I said last week when the budget was being read, the budget is majorly a political document, as we might here in Uganda, and even generally, even outside Uganda. So you will know politics. The cause, what is at the heart of a politician majorly is their benefit, and then the other people come after. So what you're asking for the budget to give you, they will want to give you what they feel that you need to hear, but it may not be very impactful and helpful when it comes to your personal resources. So I grew up when my mother used to listen to the budget speech. For us, when we were young, they used to listen to the budget speech mainly for things to do with taxation, because it is at the budget speaking when the Minister of Finance will talk about the new taxes that have been introduced on certain commodities. So one thing I remember is that around May or June, business would, around June before the budget, business would somehow slow down. They will not be buying things, and the things they had in the stores will not be sold, because there's always an anticipation that prices are going to change after the budget reading, and changing meaning they're going to increase, because usually there used to be new taxes that were being introduced. So the budget to a business person is that they want to see what are the new new taxes that are being introduced, and how are these taxes going to impact on the business, and meaning how they because the taxes for us here, they've been increasing all the time. New taxes are coming up. Then on last Thursday, we talked about how a budget is a political tool, a scenario. They just want to put figures there. Then you know how Kasaija is very funny when he's reading Honorable Kasaija. I have put 450 billion in let's say you would say like PTM. This is going to create an extra 20,000 jobs. And then people clap. But this is the same thing that he has been telling us. So if these politicians were very serious about what they are saying, he would first of all tell us last year, because the things that he was saying this year are the same things that he said last year, 2024. He would first tell us that in the year 2024, I put 400 billion in the PDM and it has created so and so many jobs. But usually that accountability is not given, or if it is given in a covered way that not everyone is going to understand that. So they would want to keep painting a good picture. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, but not giving us the audit of what they have done. So me, that's why I say that this is a political tool, and it makes people very excited. When people hear these things, they become happy. Then there is that trust in the government, because that's also a very, very important thing for the politicians and even for the economy. You just need to have trust in your government. So when you're listening to the budget and then the minister creates that hope in you, it makes you move an extra day. You're like, yeah, I think things are going to get better because they have read them on the budget. And then 1 year passes, then the things don't come, then they'll come back and promise again, then they'll come back and promise again, like that. And some things are done, some things may not be done, but then over time, the hope that is created by these budget readings help Ugandans to keep moving. So me, that's what I can say. At a micro level, the national budget may not have a very big impact on an individual at a micro level, because why I'm saying this, there's a time when let's say in 1985, starting like from 1984, by the time Obote got out and by the time Seven came out, the economy was totally dead. But people were living, people were okay. Of course, in difficult times, but people were okay. So
just a minute. Just a minute. What do you mean the economy was dead? Dead to mean? Could you unpack economy dead?
Now, the economy dead is, you see, when we talk about like the indicators of the economy, you're talking about things like interest rates, you're talking about things like inflation, you're talking about like exchange rates, then you talk about the business environment. Now, around that time, first of all, there's scarcity of goods and services. Then there's no money. Yes, there could be scarcity of the goods and services, but even the people didn't have the money to buy these things that they're supposed to have. Economics, you're looking at goods and services moving from a place where there's scarcity, moving from a place where there's plenty, where they are manufactured, to a place where there's scarcity. So that economics is all about that. Farms produce goods and services, then these goods and services are produced by, farms, industries produce goods and services, then these goods and services are bought or consumed by households. So that environment of those transactions is what we can call an economy in a nutshell. So in those 2 years, those things were not happening as they're supposed to happen. The industries were down. Some industries even didn't have raw materials. Some of them had been bombed. Some of them could not produce anything because there's no demand. So they could have literally shut down. I'm told the people who are old, but I don't think there's anyone here who could remember that electricity would be off like for 2 weeks, and we're talking about in the city center. And you find that 2 weeks there's no power. So generally the economy had broken down, but people survived. People continue living. No one. So that is the iron of the, in quotes, what these our economists want to put before our faces, that our survival and our life is dependent on the figures and the money in the bank and all that. So yeah, people can continue still moving even without a budget reading, without Bank of Uganda, without Ministry of Finance. We can still survive and continue living anyway. So me, that's what I can say. The beneficiaries of the budget reading and the economics at a national level are certain people. Then the muntu wa wansi, the calculator, he calls them space fillers. You're just there, but the actual players are those top people. Then when you ask about the statistics, who is working, who is not working, those things are actually there. When you go to the website of UBOS, those statistics are there. UBOS conducts a national household survey, I think on an annual basis, and recently must have conducted one after the census. Then also Bank of Uganda captures some statistics, Ministry of Finance captures some statistics. So if you go there, all those things are there, but they are not really read on the budget speech, because the budget speech, as we are discussing on Monday, information, the person who is communicating for a certain purpose. And he or she has to make sure the information is packaged in a good way to satisfy his purpose and to the target audience. I can stop there for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to take a round of comments from each discussant here, or from each participant here. A comment of a minute or two about the Ugandan National Budget 2025-2026, or the concept of budgeting. Francis Rugorobi Kabinuli.
Thank you very much. Just a simple observation from the Ugandan budget, not only this year's budget, but the previous ones. We've seen an increase in the amount of money allocated to servicing debt, public debt. So this is very
public. Public Pardon? Debt is a term. Could you unpack it, please, for the audience?
Public debt is the money borrowed by government on our behalf, on behalf of the citizens. And government borrows money internationally and within the borders. So government, we compete. Individuals borrow money from banks, and we compete with government in borrowing that money from banks. And then our government also borrows from other sovereign nations internationally. So that's the fund. That's the amount of money I'm talking about. So that money is meant to service part of our budget, and we have to pay it back. But every year there is a worrying trend whereby the percentage of money which goes to servicing foreign debt is increasing, and we are likely to reach a scenario whereby half of the budget, at the rate we are borrowing, we will, a few years to come, you're going to reach a scenario whereby half of our budget is servicing public debt or paying back public debt. And that means that because a good chunk of our budget is siphoned off through corruption and embezzlement, then if another big chunk goes to servicing public debt, then we'll be left with very little money to service public goods, education, roads, the public infrastructure, and other public amenities. So it's a worrying trend, which we just have to sit back and watch, because our hands are tied, basically. But we just have to sit back and watch, and maybe plan accordingly in our micro budgets as individuals and households. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are taking a round of comments on the Ugandan budget, or the concept of budgeting itself, or depending on what you've heard from Chelsea Rutembana, Yes.
Maybe Selvide.
Yes, please.
Just one thing I'd forgotten. The opposition also released their alternative budget, and this alternative budget was 55.5 trillion. I don't know if members saw that, but what is so special about this is that the Honorable Member of Parliament of Butambara, Mr. Mwanga Chivumbi, has been on radio criticizing the inflated budget of Uganda, saying that we only collect about 45 trillion, but our budget is 72 trillion, meaning that it is just something that is being inflated for political reasons and all that. But I was very surprised to see that even the opposition, well knowing how much the country collects, they also budgeted for over and above by 10 trillion. So the whole mix of this budgeting and politics is cutting across NRM and people power. There's no difference at all, because I would expect Mwanga to advise no, you don't have to make a budget of 55 trillion because we will not be able to raise 55 trillion. Let's do a budget of, like, let's say 40 or 30, because
so it is a political financing tool, not a national financing tool.
Yeah, it is political, because if NUP also has 55 trillion, I did not look at the details of the priority areas, but just the figure on the face, it just took me off really. Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that chipping. Yes, Jethro, Msoken Samba, a round of comments on what so far you've heard and what you make of our budget and its implications. A minute or two.
I think our budget is the usual. We always over budget, depending on faith, or I don't know, all kind donations of our Western masters. Yeah, so in terms of the budget, for me, there's really no difference. The thing I would have really wanted, okay, maybe I did take a good look at it, Pitson, you can advise. The issue of infrastructure, there are so many unfinished projects across Uganda, starting with the MPG Expressway, the Nakauka Road, even here in Entebbe, there are so many incomplete projects. And yet, I think about a week ago, I saw another list that had been published in the new budget that are going to be worked on. So I don't know whether the budget addressed those issues of incomplete projects. I know it's political season, so it's good to promise even new ones, but I'd have really wanted to see government concentrating on some of those projects. Yeah, was disbanded, and the biggest blame was they overcommitted the government on projects that they shouldn't have. But anyway, that's one thing I need to take an interest on. Benson, you can advise. The other one is we're always told when government reads the budget, we need to pay keen interest, because that's where they're going to spend money. So if they say this year we're going to spend so much on PDM, then if you're in that kind of industry, then you take note. But Benson has said that it's just a political what? It's just a political. It's just a ceremony. It's just a reading. So there's really nothing much we should read into that. So, Petro, I just want you to clarify: should I, as a business owner or whatever, pay attention to the budget, because it's telling me where government is going to spend money? Is it just a piece of paper, just a speech, or they're serious about that? So, Petro, you can just help me clarify.
Yes, Rutembana.
Yes, so on the first one, the Madam Speaker, on the Nakauka Road, I've put 400 billion. I think that could be the statement. Like me, I'm saying this in a joking way, but that's how the guy spoke. All these roads that you're talking about, which are unfinished, all of them, are in the what? Are in the budget. And the promise is that they're going to be worked on, plus even new roads. But the problem is that they're not worked on now. You've talked about Nakauka Road. I can promise you, I don't know when they started working on that road. If they started working on it 5 years ago, if you go to the budget speeches of 15 years earlier, you'd find that that road has been being talked about 15 years ago. Then they keep reading it, but then they have now started doing some work, and probably they'll finish it like in the next 6 years. So that is the sad story about these things of the budget. Now, when you talk about the priority areas, I started from the statement where they need to first of all give accountability of the performance. If let's say you said they are going to put 1 trillion in PDM, before you start reading what you're going to allocate in 26, 20, 25, 26, you first give Ugandans accountability that actually the money was invested in it. 26, the first give Ugandans accountability that actually 1 trillion was put in PDM. Because last year's budget was 72 trillion. The money that was collected was 48 trillion, meaning there's a gap like of close to 30 trillion. So even if you're a business person and you hear that they're going to invest money based on the budget they have read, the 72 trillion, it may not actually be practical because the actual spending would be 48 and then others will be rolled over. So the issue is politics at play. And okay, that's what I can answer. You can say that they're going to invest here, but in actual sense, they might not actually invest there. That's why in rare cases, they give us accountability of what happened in the previous year before they tell us what is going to happen in the next year.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Priest White, your 2-minute comment on what so far has transpired.
Moderator, for me, the only issue I have with the Ugandan budget is that we are budgeting for the wrong thing, but we are misrepresenting it before the Ugandan citizens, because our budget, we are budgeting for our consumer spirit, and that is not something that we are straightforward with. So I think that's why I agree with Rutembana that this is a political document, because basically we realized from the professionals last time that 75% of our budget goes to our consumer business. So in the spirit of budgeting, I think we should start with our consumer spirit.
And just say we eat it and defecate it, and it's done.
Okay, fine. Now I'm not a Muchiga, so I wanted to be cool. So we should be budgeting for our eating, and then we stop lying, disguising money for eating in agriculture, disguising money for eating in road constructions and infrastructure, disguising money for eating in education, disguising money for eating and defecating in other development affairs. So for me, I pray that at one point we be honest with ourselves. We'll be honest with ourselves. And I think Francis and Thembana will help us. What are the essentials of a budget? Not a national budget. Let's start with an individual budget. What are those essentials? Because when you get to know those essentials, then you can now understand. And how should one be honest with making their budget? So I think for me, Ugandans are not honest. And until then, we will have problems. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have another round. Now we shall turn to another presenter here, Francis Lugolobi Kabinuli, to talk about the concept of budgeting first at a micro level, and and then the features or the principles of budgeting and how that could be utilized by a common man like me, somebody who would listen to us a year or two after now or later to understand why we need to budget. What's a budget? Do we need to budget? To answer what question? What question does budgeting answer? What must we know if we're to budget? Yes, Francis Lugolobi, you have about 8 minutes. 8 minutes to take us through this.
Thank you so much. Budgeting is a term which means planning. Simply put, budgeting is planning. And in finance, financial planning is what we call a budget. So just like you plan in other areas of your life, before you do anything important, you need to plan for it. So we are organized beings. We are intentional beings. So because we are organized, and being organized means we are intentional in what we do. So whatever we are going to do in any given period ahead has to be planned. And in finance, we call that budgeting. So a budget is a financial plan. And as Isaiah asked that, what are the principles of budgeting? Budgets or plans are based on our historical knowledge of those particular things we are going to do. We don't budget from a vacuum. We budget from our historical knowledge of those very things we are planning for. So when we are planning at a micro level, at a personal and homestead level or domestic level, we look at how different areas of our lives have been conducted, with which resources and from which sources for those resources. Then we project into the future, looking at the challenges and the opportunities which the future holds, the ones we can anticipate, because we look at how we've dealt with different areas of our lives and how much resources have we injected in those areas and what were the sources of the resources we used. Then we project that history to the future. Now, when you're projecting to the future, we look at the challenges which may affect our obtaining enough resources to address those areas of our lives. And then we look at also the opportunities. Then we anticipate our income. That is the sources of the resources which we are going to use in those different areas of our lives. Now, when we are budgeting or planning at a micro level, there are 9 areas which every individual planner must look at. 1 is feeding, 2 is clothing, 3 is accommodation, 4 is Medicare, 5 is movement or transport, 6 is communication, 7 is knowledge, 8 is entertainment, 9 is social support or dependency support, people who depend on you. So those areas, when you're planning financially, you look at those areas in your life, how you've conducted them in the past 1, 2, 5, 10 years. How much resources have you applied to each area? And what were the source of those resources? Then you look at the growth in those resources and expenditure in those areas. And you look at, you subject the average growth in resources to the future. For example, when you're looking at the next financial year starting July 2025 to June 2026, we look at those 9 areas and you look at how much money have you gotten from whatever sources to address those 9 areas in our lives. So when you look at them, then you say, okay, over the past 10 years, my income has been growing at a rate of maybe 5% per year. I'm giving you an example. or has not been growing in the past 5 years because I'm employed and I get the same salary, and our salaries are only increasing in every 5 years, after 5 years or 3 years. And then the salaries are just increased last year, and I don't anticipate any change in salaries. That means that I may if I get on, my income comes only from from salaries, I will address my budget. I'll have a flat budget with no increase from last year. But if you're in business and then you have business trends whereby businesses, the income increases in your other business sources of income, then you can apply the increase to an increased income in the following year. Actually, a budget is a financial plan, and the financial plan has two sides. It has sources, it has income, and it has expenditure. So you first you plan on where you are going to get the money or the resources you need to address the different areas of your life, the 9 areas of your life. Then you apply the bulk amount of money you would have got you anticipate to get in the year to those specific areas, cognizant of the anticipated challenges and opportunities that may arise next year. For example, next year is an election year. In your sources of income, it may pose a challenge or an opportunity. So, being a special year, you may apply, if it's applicable to your income source, then you may apply that to your to your income side, and respectively to your expenditure side. And like I said 2 or 3 times at fellowship, we've been talking about things to do with expectation. My advice is that for the sake of our well-being, it's not very good to over-anticipate. The challenge is many people have very high abnormal expectations. I've not said most, but many have abnormal expectations of increase in income. They have a very rosy expectation of the future, whereby someone who has been earning every month maybe 2 millions every month this year, they expect it to miraculously become 3 millions next year. And so they will have a budget whereby they are spending 3 millions on each of, on all those items every year. This year they've been spending 2 millions. We're not very prudent in our expectations. We should be prudent, because the moment you fail to get, the moment you set your bar so high, your levels of satisfaction and happiness are going to be derailed. But if we should have more reasonable and realistic budgets or planning, whereby we don't over anticipate the positives. In prudence, we even over anticipate the negatives. By being prudent, we look at all the negative scenarios which may come up, and we anticipate usually income, such that even when we get if we get higher or more than we had planned, then we'll have we'll be merrier and happier, because psychologically our mindset was set for maybe earning 2.2 millions every month, and then we end up earning 3 millions every month, and definitely impacting our spending, which will go higher, and we'll be happier. But if we budget for 3 millions and we end up with 2.5, we will have it will have a negative psychological effect on us and on our households. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There are three areas here that budgeting sits. Number 1, our needs, the 9.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, the resources. Number 3, the sources, right?
Yeah.
What comes first? What must I look at first? Must resource determine my source? Must source determine my needs? Must needs precede resource? So what determines what? Or what precedes what? Or it doesn't matter?
It matters. It matters. For most people, it's the needs which come first, because we are chased by these needs. To the largest percentage of the population are chased by the needs. And we don't even
are entire allowed, sorry to interrupt, and are entire allowed to forego some of the 9? What if I zero in on 4 or on 5 out of the 9? For example, if I say I will not go entertainment, I will not go Netflix, I will not go movies, I will not go to music, to Backstreet Boys. If they come to Uganda, I will not go. So
yeah, actually, in my listing those needs, I started with what we call the basic needs. Basic needs are the ones which you cannot forego. Then the other 5, you can decide to forego them. But you usually you're as a social as a complete psychological being and sociological being would need all the 9, but because of resources you may forego the 5, and usually when you're spending we start with the 4. That's feeding, clothing, shelter, and health. Those are the ones we start with. Medicare.
Okay.
Then the others follow. But then, as I was saying, that the unfortunate bit is that because of our condition, especially I'm talking about Uganda, most the greatest part of the population, we start with the needs. It's the needs. What we need is what comes to our mind first. Now, because I need to eat, I need to clothe. Basically, I need a roof over my head. I need treatment when I'm sick. Those, and actually, I need them urgent, like yesterday, because they're chasing me. Because they're chasing me, I start looking for. I don't even look for a particular job. No, I look for anything that can address them. That's the starting point. But I'm saying that's the reality for most people. Anyone who can give me anything. There's a friend of mine who came to me and said, Francis, can you get me actually not only one person, but there's a reason who came anything where I can get money. I can do anything, I can learn anything. We come from that position. Then we go for the source. From the needs, we go to the source. Then from the source, we go to addressing the addressing the But so, it shouldn't be. But if for people who have addressed the basic needs and who are in a more comfortable place, that's not the order. The order is the order is not on the basics. The order is different. The order is different because things are not chasing you. You pick and choose, especially when it comes to source. You pick and choose that. Okay, you say, for example, Peter. You say, okay, I'm not. I'll go for, even if I'm trained as a teacher. My passion is public speaking. I'm going to become a public speaker. I'm going to become a blogger or a vlogger, and I'll get whatever I get from here because nothing is chasing you. You get me? So there are changes in the sourcing, in the source of your income. So even when you look at budgets for these people, for someone in the lower end of the ladder of the social strata, you find that you find that amounts allocated, you find that they have mainly the first 4 items, and amounts allocated. And then when you come to the latter, people who are in the higher stratums of society, you find that people they have more money is even allocated to entertainment and sociological support and communication and transport than on the basic needs. You find that the meals have a very tiny proportion of the feeding. It has a very small proportion. Feeding and clothing, and they have a very tiny proportion of the income they're taking every month, and most of the money is on the other areas of life. So that's what I can say about it. Yeah.
So depending on one's social economic status, they decide to start at any point. They can start at a source point, at a resource point, or at a needs point. All right. Yes, Pastor White, do you have any follow-up question for Francis Lugolobi, or anything that you desire that he comments on?
No.
Okay. All right. Yes. Yes, Musoka Nsamba, do you have any follow-up question or any comment regarding Mr. Lugolobi's presentation?
No, the thing The thing we all struggle with from a budgeting point of view, like we always say here, the government is a reflection of us individually. Because even us, when you are making our individual budgets, many times we over budget. I mean, we budget for more than the resources we have for whatever reason. But I think partly it's because we are social beings here, at least in Africa. We are still community beings, so we do things together. So some of the items we budget for, especially when it comes to weddings, kwanjulas, and things like that, those are handled by this community. But even when you look at our individual budgets, many times we over budget. Someone will be earning. I don't know if I gave you this example. There's one of my sons, my late sister's sons. He has been off WhatsApp for a while. So when I met him last week, I asked him, "You off WhatsApp? What's up? Are you okay?" Like I've been trying to reach him and I can't via WhatsApp. And he told me I don't have a phone. Then I asked him, "Oh, what happened? Oh, the other phone got spoiled. I want to buy a new one." I said, "Uh-huh. So what phone do you want?" I think he said iPhone. I don't remember which version of iPhone, but one of those versions. Not necessarily the latest. So I asked him, "How much money do you have?" He said, "I have 500,000 right now, but I want an iPhone." I told him 500,000 can buy you a very nice Techno. He said, "No, no, no, I want an iPhone." I said, "Okay. You're a single man, I guess you're not paying rent, and so on and so forth." Anyway, the thing I struggle with is how, even in our individual budget, sometimes we tend to go beyond, because in my opinion, this young man should not be buying an iPhone. In my considered opinion, he should not be buying an iPhone. But then, I mean, it's his life, like we normally say, so he does what he wants. So the thing I'm struggling with from Francis's presentation is how where to draw some of those boundaries. If I want to live in Muyenga, for example, but my salary can barely make me stay in Muyenga, what should I do? It's Muyenga that I want. So should I spend 90% of my salary on Muyenga and then I beg for the rest of the month? What seems practical? And then the second question for me is, and I think this concept I first heard from you, Francis, again, the concept of bringing your dream closer. There are two ways of going about it. One, you can work for 30 years, save up money, and then build your dream home at 70 years, or maybe start traveling at 80 when your bones can barely move. The other alternative is to bring that dream closer. You get what you want today. You basically live in your house today, take that trip today, and so on and so forth. So the balance, Francis, can you talk about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
please.
The first question is actually I even briefly talked about it. So we are very social beings, and many of the things we think we want or we need, we actually don't want them. But the marketplace and society has convinced us that we want them. The adverts we are seeing, the neighbors and friends who have taken on those services and goods uh, have biased us to think that we also need them. And then over time, we feel that we can even afford them, and we end up we end up going for those particular brands and for particular services which we don't actually want, and which which we which we can't afford. And and what happens is that someone, you may have a friend, for example, Peter is my friend, and every time I see him driving every time he's talking about how nice a Subaru is and all that, and I'm driving a Toyota, then I will end up my mind will end up getting a bias towards maybe a Subaru. If Peter maybe is in a higher social class than me and I'm in a lower social class, and I'm appealing to go to that higher social class. So, and then what happens is that even the people who manufacture these products, they keep bombarding us with advertisement, which helps to turn our mindset towards from what we are using or having towards them. So we end up having goals and plans for things which actually wouldn't have wanted. We don't need even in our setup. They're going to cause an extra cost which you don't need. So one, my advice to people is that actually there was a sociological research which was made. I think I was talking about it at iTiS fellowship with some people who were there earlier. I was looking up. There was a sociological research which was done to show that people who have high plans, people who have very high plans, which are beyond their capacity, or even which are even this goes even to rich people. Actually, it's the richer people who even have higher plans than they can afford in the wealthy people. For example, can find someone they have a 500 million house, but because their colleagues, some of the few colleagues who are higher up there, they have 2 billion houses. So this person who can't afford, they can afford a very nice 500 million house, but because someone has a 2 billion house, they aspire for that, and they get stressed up into getting that. Someone has a yacht, and then they want a better one because another billionaire has a better one. So that's how they get into competition. He doesn't have the money. He tries here and there. He gets stressed up and fatigued. And then it was discovered that actually people who have low expectations in life, who are usually in the lower, even lower middle class, are people in the lower middle class. They have enough to go by. They have their life is just okay. Those are people who are happy, who are happier than even who are the happiest in life, who don't aspire to have very, very huge or big things, who don't have those in their plans. So it's caused by society and how it tunes us to want a lot. We get greedy actually. Society tends to our human nature, which is greedy and pumped up by society, the incentives society pumps into us, we end up expecting a lot and wanting a lot and over planning, and even sometimes, even when we get what we want, we still want what is bigger than what we've gotten. So it's endless. So we end up unhappy because of that, and then always planning over and above. Then on the other question you asked, which is how bringing the dream closer. This one I use it for in my sessions when I in my personal finance sessions. But one of the when you study the Pedersen is one who's I think studying a lot of economics. When you go into economics and you study the microeconomics and you look at development modules and trends in the past 30 years. Let's look at just the past 30 years. People have been personal micro development or growth at a domestic and personal level has been very much based on people aspiring for things which they can achieve, but then if they rely on their own resources, it's going to take them 20 or 30 years to achieve them. Most people, I'm talking about people who can achieve them, who have the means and the strategies laid out. But if they rely on their incomes only, they're going to get whatever in those 9 areas I talked about. They're going to get whatever they want in 10, 20, 30 years. So the driver in here is if for example you can get let me give an example of myself. 2 years ago I wanted to buy a car which was ranging in about 70 millions. But for me to save for that car, I needed so many years to save for it, to save for the car. So I had an alternative. The alternative was to buy that car now, to get credit and buy that vehicle now, 2 years back. That was June last year, and sorry, June 2 years ago, and then pay for it. And of course, there are mathematical calculations which are involved in there. But this is for someone who has an income that can save for that item for a longer period of time, but you bring it closer by buying it and paying the interest. And more so for it's very good if whatever you're going to buy, is going to generate income to cover is going to help you generate income to cover the interest which you are paying, or to cover the loan repayments and all that. For that is, or even more so if it's a business asset you're bringing closer, because of then there are things you have to look at there which are in economics, like time value of money, because most of the things you want to buy, you want them now. By the time you get the money, you won't want them. 5 years from now, I wouldn't. 5 years from 2 years ago, I wouldn't want I don't think I would want a Subaru, a Forester 2014 model. No. So things change. By the time you have saved up the money, other things are too expensive. The rate of inflation on certain things is too high, is higher than even the amount of money you spend on paying interest. For example, if you're going to buy a plot of land, land in Chirinya, for example, in 2005 was 18 millions, where I'm living now in 2005. Now, a plot of land is at 140 millions. The same plot which was 18 millions and that has Chirinya land hasn't grown at a very fast rate. So by the time you've saved up, if someone who had have saved up for, maybe they wanted to buy that plot of land in 2005, it was 18 million. They save up that money in 10 years. By the time they get the 18 millions, the land is in about 80 million. So it's some of the things we want have very exponential inflation. So, but then we should only bring closer our dreams when we have a plan laid out and it's a realistic, achievable plan. Thank you.
So bringing closer our dreams is dependent on our planning, what we call budgeting again.
Still, yeah, long-term budgeting.
Yes, and you said that, yeah, and you said this planning is factored on our history. You need to first look into your history.
Yeah. And it's based on history and anticipated challenges and projected challenges and opportunities.
Yes, Pastor White, do you have any comment regarding what you have heard so far?
You see, all these things that were the expert is teaching us depend on one's ability to understand. First, to understand where they are. Then second, to understand where they want to be. Then an evaluation of the problems and the solutions of where they are. And also to anticipate those solutions, and then they plan. Planning is not for everyone. Therefore, I think some people must make money and have those who budget for them. I don't know whether that is recommended from the experts, but I think not everyone should budget for their money. I mean, their money. Some people should just make money and then look for those who can plan for the money that they made. In other words, some of us maybe have the ability to make money, but we don't have the ability to plan for the money that we made. Thank you, moderator.
Yes, thank you, Umchozu Tembana.
Moderator, if I can chip in just a bit.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Pastor Isaiah has highlighted something, and I have several clients, by the way, whom I help draft budgets to plan their expenditure. They make the money, but they have no clue on how to spend it properly. So usually they seek out our services to help them manage their expenditure. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Umchozu Tembana.
Yes, thank you. Me, I want to now take you to a very, very different direction. And you please forgive me. You know, there are things that we have been doing for a very long time, but it's high time that we start questioning some of the things that we have done and we have been overdoing it, we have been doing for a long time. Now, budgeting is something that is for the future, okay? Because now the budget Kasaija was reading is for the next year. Even us, when we're budgeting, we budget for the future. But do you know one of the things that we forget every time we're budgeting is that we never know if we're going to be there in the time when in the time what we're budgeting for. Like we don't know that we're going to be, if let's say you're budgeting for 5 years, you even have no assurance that you're going to be there for the next 5 years or you're going to be there for the next 1 year. Okay? Then the other thing about budgeting is we budget because of limited resources. And here we have discussed over this and this again and said that the thing about limited resources is actually not true, because the resources that we have are more than enough for our survival. In fact, one of the good verses in the Bible, Matthew chapter 6, Jesus is telling us, don't look at the food for tomorrow, because you don't know if you're even going to be there. Focus on the food that you have to eat today that is on your plate. Then when it reaches tomorrow, you also come back and what? And plan for tomorrow. Now, the question of us budgeting for the future, is it a good culture to keep doing? Because it is from the things that we when we anticipate the future, now you want to go and live in that future, yet you're still in the present today. And we have discussed over and over, discussed people that have successfully done things. We have discussed people that have left the things that they have accumulated over time. Because you plan today, then you want to see how yourself will be in 30 years, then you start doing things of 30 years now, and you might even not be there in 30 years. So my question around that, because you see, humanity, we really try to complicate life. And I think life is supposed to be a very, very basic thing, because it's all about survival. Whether you have, whether you don't have, you always find that you're not any different from the one that doesn't have or the one that has. So to me, I think that if we can maybe borrow the ideas of Jesus, what he taught us for now, and first focus on short-term survival for today, then tomorrow, because do you know what even brings that scarcity? Is because we have people that have accumulated wealth for the next 90 years. They have it now. They have wealth for the next 100 years. They have it in 2025. Because
Exactly.
of that thing that we're talking about, that we want to plan for the future. People have accumulated wealth for their great grandchildren. They have it now. So me, I think that this thing of budgeting, and you're budgeting, you're even not sure if you're going to be there tomorrow, but then you're accumulating wealth. And it even comes to there's something which is so funny. I've been discussing with someone. Like the thing about growth, is growth circular or it is linear? When they say someone has grown from point A to point B, is it linear or it is circular? Because ideally, when we're discussing, we found out that actually you don't grow, you just keep rotating around the same thing and then you die and leave it. Take an example. Sorry, one last minute. You see do you know where Brevard is? Brevard is opposite Kampala Post Bank. Sorry, Post Office. You know that building of Rajiv.
Yes.
Now, before Provad, I had already come to Kampala. There's a club which was called Club Sway. It was also some nice building story, if some people, I think, can remember. Now, the owner of club, that club, so I can maybe say the building was maybe built in the 60s or the 70s before the Indian left. They dismantled it. It was like 3 stories. Now they are put Provad. But even before that building of the Indians, probably there's a shop that was roofed by grass. So the person who first built that shop by grass had grown. Then he sold that land to some other Indian who put up that building of Club Sway. He would also think that he had grown and become rich. Then now you have Rajiv now who has put Provad. 200 years from now, Provad will be down and we'll have another building. So whatever growth that we do, you start again. So as in, and these are things you're talking about the future, but you're just rotating around one thing like this, how the earth has been rotating around the sun for 7.7 billion years, just doing the same thing, rotating around the sun and rotating around its axis for 24 hours, and it's going nowhere. So when you talk about future planning and all that, we're just here dancing around the same thing. Then you dance around for the years, then you die. Then your children come do the same, they die, they go like that. Thank you.
Pastor White, Pastor White,
Mm.
is a Mr. Rutembana being cynical and pessimistic?
No. No, he's not. While Rutembana does not believe in the Bible, he carries a biblical ideology.
Please proceed without attacking my discussion. Please.
Mine is science and reality.
But you see, and that is what biblical
Based
biblical
on
ideology.
reason and what?
That guy is a fool. The one of reasoning and whatever is a fool. But Rutembana is biblical in a sense. And what we mean by biblical, when we say biblical, we mean science, reality. That's what we mean. So he has a biblical ideology, and he makes a very important point. If we say that budget is planning, are we planning for now or for tomorrow? And if
For
the
tomorrow.
budget says that, if the budget says that we're planning for tomorrow, then Rutembana has got an issue with it. Why are we planning for a time in which we are absent? Because he argues that that is what brings about greed and actually interrupts our budgeting and planning. We are planning poorly because we are planning for a time where we are not and for a world where we are not. So in other words, he has just advised us, please plan for where you are. That is okay, relax. Number one. Number two, again, Rutembana tells us that do not be overprotective and over-responsible. Stop acting like you are responsible for the future. You are not responsible for the future. For instance, how can Uganda be reading a budget of the United States? Is that possible? That is what Rutembana is asking. You are not in the tomorrow, but you are reading tomorrow's budget. What about today? And then he quotes God, which he normally tells us that he's not involved. Now, I think he sees how involved that God is. We have not only listened to him. That's why we have just sidelined an involved guy. He's trying to bring on his principles, and we actually against those principles because of our low thinking capacity. So for me, I agree with the brother. Biblical ideology is the way to go. Science and reality.
Yes, Mr. Francis Gorovi, logic and reality.
Thank you very much. I won't go that side of harm of logic based on reason and reality, but I will actually to a great extent I agree with my brother Chwezi Rutembana, because planning definitely is mainly for order. To me, it's mainly for order, because if you get resources and then you're going to spend them ad hoc, as and when, without without putting order to your table, sometimes it your life may not you may not for example, you just for order to begin with. That's why I started to begin with. Even if you're planning for tomorrow, you need some order. If you have four clothes, you have 4 shirts, you need an order. Okay, tomorrow I'm putting on this one, the other day I'm putting on the other one, so that you don't waste a lot of time trying to choose in the morning which one you are putting on. Sometimes you put on this one, you remove it. But if you had planned beforehand, before the week starts, that this week I'm putting on these shirts in this order. On Fridays when I'm putting on the t-shirt, it helps you to you save time in you, which you would have wasted in choosing them. So for planning purposes, but for accumulating resources for 20 or 30 years from now, actually that's why I came up with it's me who coined that phrase of bringing the future today. Bring it closer, bring your future closer, because I looked at people who are planning. I studied people's plans and how to accumulate resources and save for 10 years and all that, and you don't know whether you are here tomorrow. But because you don't know whether you're here in 5 years time or 10 years time, if you have a chance, do your best to plan now. Use your planning to bring those things which you would have done 10 years from today, which you love doing, which will give you joy. Do your best and plan to bring them to this year. So in that case, because we don't know they will be there, if you can maneuver and realistically bring those things closer, bring that car closer, buy those clothes closer, bring the electronics gadgets closer, and you have the ability to play around the credit system, then do that, because you don't know they're here. You'll be here in 5 years or 10 years. You may not be here. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Pastor White, I would like to give you 5 minutes, and you take us through the shrewd accountant, or the talents, or whatever you pick from a theological point of view. What is God's revelation on how we should behave with money? In 5 minutes, what does he advise? What is his wisdom as far as money habits are concerned, especially to us whose faith is in him? 5 minutes.
Well, the first thing that God is concerned with as far as money is concerned is our attitude.
Mm.
When we look at money and material things, what do we see? Do we see weapons to use against others? Do we see life in our money? Or do we see mere tools to use to make other people's lives better, to make our lives better, and to make our environments better? That is the first thing that God is concerned with as far as money is concerned. Attitude. And there are many texts to that. There are many texts to that. Now, that is the first thing. Then the other thing that God or Christianity is concerned with as far as money and material wealth is concerned is accountability. Accountability. That's why he says there is no man who builds a house without counting the cost of that. So accountability. You have to give an account for each and every wealth that has gone through your hands. And you cannot account for money in the bank. I hope you understand. And yes, you cannot go before God and say, well, the money you gave me is in the bank. Because for him, he looks at that money as talents. So that's a proper accountability before God is money that is being used. And when you go to the Petersons and Francis, they will tell you that money should not sit on an account. Money should be in circulation. So as far as God is concerned, money should be in circulation. Using in business and giving it away so that it circulates. It saturates. It saturates. Material things should be in saturation. If you have 2 houses, okay, and you have 3 houses, and you have 5 houses, and you have 16 cars, you can, if you have 16 cars, you can rent like 10 and give out 6. Saturation. Those who have 2 shirts, give 1 to a brother. Saturation. Then rent out. That's how it works. Because these material things, like Rutembana just told you here, where Boulevard is, there was a building there. But even before the building which was there before Boulevard, there was another building there. Now Rajiv is no more the owner of Boulevard, and Boulevard is there. But in life, Rajiv could not give away Boulevard because the attitude of Rajiv to Boulevard, he thought that that was his life. Today, if you ask Rajiv wherever he is, to get you back to Uganda and to give out Boulevard, what do you prefer? He would say that I would give like 10 Boulevards, but I get back to Uganda. So there is nothing that you cannot give out. Saturation, because the more it saturates, the more it comes back to you. But if it doesn't, that's the attitude of God. So when you're budgeting and planning, plan saturation in economic growth and economic generosity. You need to do that. So that's the attitude of God. Then, that's the other issue with God. Then the other issue, because you brought in the shrewd steward, you need to be clever in a sinful world. Christians need to be shrewd. Okay? And being shrewd does not mean that you become thieves. No. But you cannot you cannot sell products unless you know how to trick the buyers. So you need to trick buyers to buy. So you need that kind of shrewdness as a Christian. And that shrewdness entails information management is very important. Then influence, psychological management, so that you can sell your products. We don't sell products like we sell Jesus. When we are selling Jesus, we say the whole truth as it is, because it is not our truth. When we are selling products, we are marketing the buyers who do not even know what they want. And we are taking advantage so that we can sell those products. When they get back home and they realize they didn't need this product, we have already made sales. That's your responsibility. That's what the shrewd steward teaches you. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much. Your parting shot, Mr. Ansamba.
My parting shots, we should be shrewd. That is submission by Pastor Isaiah. But also, for me, the other takeaway is bringing the dream closer. I've been thinking about that thing today for some reason. Bring your dream closer. Yeah, this is my takeaway.
Closer.
Bring it closer. Don't wait for 8 years to travel. I don't know to all these places you want to travel to.
You go.
You just go today, tomorrow. Yeah, that's my takeaway.
Yes, your takeaway, Francis?
For instance, Jethro has been thinking of giving me that Serica for the last 3 years, but he's not letting it go. So really, bring your team closer.
Which Serica?
The other one.
Serica has a Vichika, you will not manage it.
Onoitobola. Onotobola wekanzu.
Ngatudde mu mutto mu passenger seat. Muzeika sato.
Yes, Francis?
My parting shot is please, when you're planning, don't overcomplicate things and make the plan. Don't make too much of overhead plans. You can make medium-term plans and let it be centered on you. What do you want? What is going to make you happy? Not what your mother, your father, your wife, your children, the village, your workmates. No. Look at yourself when you're planning, when you're making your financial plan. And as my brother Musoke says, always do your best and from your ability, after understanding yourself and your abilities, those resources, those things which are going to make your life better in clothing, in eating, in entertainment, whatever, get them now and pay
Thank
later.
you.
Or
Thank you.
if you die early.
Thank you. Thank you, Rutembana. Your key takeaway or your parting shots?
Me, I would say that one, life is very simple, and we shouldn't really complicate it as human beings. And then another thing, maybe we didn't go there, but it's about growth, which is okay. Just okay. Let me stop there. I've got company here. Let me stop there.
Okay. Yes, Pastor White.
May God bless you, all of you. I think number one, the 9 things that that Francis talked about, they are important. But when you are wealthy, they look useless. Most wealthy people look at those 9 things as useless. Actually, at least most of them. So they sacrifice their happiness, their wealth, their diet for making more and more money. I think that's the problem. Then the Rutembana theory of thinking in the now. Okay, that's also very, very important. And of course, the biblical ideology. So thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much. This has been In Truth and in Spirit Well of Worship Fellowship on the 19th of June 2025. The topic has been money matters and my annual growth or my annual finances. Thank you very much. May God bless, keep and protect you until we meet again. My name is Peter Calviland Selby from In Truth and Spirit Well of Worship Fellowship. Only Christ alone saves. Good night.